Chapter 2, Each is Great in His Own Place, Part 2. Every man should take up his own ideal and endeavor to accomplish it. That is a surer way of progress than taking up other men's ideals which he can never hope to accomplish. For instance, we take a child and at once give him the task of walking 20 miles. Either the little one dies or one in 1,000 crawls the 20 miles to reach the end exhausted and half dead. That is like what we generally try to do with the world. All the men and women in any society are not of the same mind, capacity, or of the same power to do things. They must have different ideals, and we have no right to sneer at any idea. Let everyone do the best he can for realizing his own ideal. Let everyone do the best he can for realizing his own ideal. Nor is it right that I should be judged by your standard or you by mine. The apple tree should not be judged by the standard of the oak, nor the oak by that of the apple. To judge the apple tree, you must take the apple standard, and for the oak, its own standard. Unity in variety is the plan of creation. However, men and women may vary individually. There is unity in the background. The different individual characters and classes of men and women are natural variations in creation. Hence, we ought not to judge them by the same standard or put the same ideal before them. Such a course creates only an unnatural struggle. And the result is that man begins to hate himself and is hindered from becoming religious and good. Our duty is to encourage everyone in his struggle to live up to his own highest ideal and strive at the same time to make the ideal as near as possible to the truth. In the Hindu system, in the Hindu system of morality, we find that this fact has been recognized from very ancient times. And in their scriptures and books on ethics, different rules are laid down from the different classes of men: the householder, the sannyasin, the man who has renounced the world, and the student. The life of every individual, according to the Hindu scriptures, has its peculiar duties apart from what belongs in common to universal humanity. The Hindu begins life as a student, then he marries and becomes a householder. In old age, he retires, and lastly, he gives up the world to become a sannyasi. To each of these stages of life, certain duties are attached. No one of these stages is intrinsically superior to another. The life of a married man is quite as great as that of the celibate who has devoted himself to religious work. The scavenger in the street is quite as great, as glorious as the king on his throne. Take him off his throne, make him do the work of a scavenger, and see how he fares. Take up the scavenger and see how he will rule. It is useless to say that the man who lives out of the world is a greater man than he who lives in the world. It is much more difficult to live in the world and worship God than to give it up and live a free and easy life. The 4 stages of life in India have in later times been reduced to 2, that of an householder and of a monk. The householder marries and carries on his duties as a citizen, and the duty of the other is to devote his energies wholly to religion, to preach and to worship God. I shall read to you a few passages from the Mahanirvana Tantra, which treats of this subject, and you will see that it is a very difficult task for a man to be a householder and perform all his duties perfectly. The householder should be devoted to God. The knowledge of God should be his goal of life. Yet, he must work constantly, perform all his duties. He must give up the fruits of his action to God. It is the most difficult thing in this world to work and not care for the result, to help a man and never think that he ought to be grateful, to do some good work and at the same time never look to see whether it brings you name or fame or nothing at all. Even the most arrant coward becomes brave when the world praises him. A fool can do heroic deeds when the approbation of society is upon him. But for a man to constantly do good without caring for the approbation of his fellow men is indeed the highest sacrifice a man can perform. The great duty of the householder is to earn a living, but he must take care that he does not do it by telling lies or by cheating or by robbing others. And he must remember that his life is for the service of God and the poor. Knowing that mother and father are the visible representatives of God, the householder always and by all means must please them. If the mother is pleased and the father, God is pleased with the man. That child is a really a good child who never speaks harsh words to his parents. Before parents must Before parents one must not utter jokes, must not show restlessness, must not show anger or temper. Before mother or father, a child must bow down low and stand up in their presence and must not take a seat until they order him to sit. If a householder has food and drinks and clothes without first seeing that his mother and his father, his children, his wife, and the poor are supplied, he is committing a sin. The mother and the father are the causes of this body, so a man must undergo 1,000 troubles in order to do good to them. Even so is his duty to his wife. No man should scold his wife, and he must always maintain her as if she were his own mother. And even when he is in the greatest difficulties and troubles, he must not show anger to his wife. He who thinks of another woman besides his wife, if he touches her even with his mind, that man goes to dark hell. Before women, he must not talk improper language and never brag of his powers. He must not say, I have done this and I have done that. The householder must always please his wife with money, clothes, love, faith, and words like nectar, and never do anything to disturb her. That man who has succeeded in getting the love of a chaste wife has succeeded in his religion and has all the virtues. The following are duties towards children. A son should be lovingly reared up to his 4th year. He should be educated till he is 16. When he is 20 years of age, he should be employed in some work. He should then be treated affectionately by his father as his equal. Exactly in the same manner, the daughter should be brought up and should be educated with the greatest care. And when she marries, the father ought to give her jewels and wealth. Then the duty of the man is towards his brothers and sisters, and towards the children of his brothers and sisters if they are poor, and towards his other relatives, his friends, and his servants. Then his duties are towards the people of the same village and the poor and anyone that comes to him for help. Having sufficient means, if a householder does not take care to give to his relatives and to the poor, know him to be only a brute. He is not a human being. Excessive attachment to food, clothes, and the tending of the body and the dressing of the hair should be avoided. The householder must be pure in heart and clean in body, always active and always ready for work. To his enemies, the householder must be a hero. Them he must resist. That is the duty of a householder. He must not sit down in a corner and weep and talk nonsense about non-resistance. If he does not show himself a hero to his enemies, he has not done his duty. And to his friends and relatives, he must be as gentle as a lamb. It is the duty of a householder not to pay reverence to the wicked, because if he reverences the wicked people of the world, he patronizes wickedness, and it will be a great mistake if he disregards those who are worthy of respect, the good people. He must not be gushing in his friendship. He must not go out of his way making friends everywhere. He must watch the actions of the men he wants to make friends with and their dealings with other men, reason upon them, and then make friends. These 3 things he must not talk of. He must not talk in public of his own fame. He must not preach his own name or his own powers. He must not talk of his wealth or of anything that has been told to him privately. A man must not say he is poor or that he is wealthy. He must not brag of his wealth. Let him keep his own counsel. This is his religious duty. This is not mere worldly wisdom. If a man does not do so, he may be held to be immoral. The householder is the basis, the prop of the whole society. He is the principal earner. The poor, the weak, the children, and the women who do not work all live upon the householder. So there must be certain duties that he has to perform, and these duties must make him feel strong to perform them and not make him think that he is doing things beneath his ideal. Therefore, if he has done something weak or has made some mistake, he must not say so in public. And if he is engaged in some enterprise and knows he is sure to fail in it, he must not speak of it. Such self exposure is not only uncalled for, but also unnerves the man and makes him unfit for the performance of his legitimate duties in his life. At the same time, he must struggle hard to acquire these things, firstly, knowledge, and secondly, wealth. It is his duty, and if he does not do his duty, he is nobody. A householder who does not struggle to get wealth is immoral. If he is lazy and content to lead an ideal life, he is immoral because upon him depends hundreds. If he gets riches, hundreds of others will thereby be supported. If there were not in this city hundreds who have striven to become rich and who had acquired wealth, where would all this civilization and these almshouses and great houses be?